Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, we're going to be talking about the strategy design pattern. The idea is that it allows you to provide your user with multiple algorithm options. The user can choose the option they want at runtime, and this is flexible, so you can add more options later if you want. So let's go over an example. Let's say there's a character that's going to fight a dragon. For this character to defeat the dragon, it can use a rock, a bat, or a bazooka. Now, what do all these options have in common? Well, they're all weapons. So to start using the strategy design pattern, we begin by creating an interface called weapon. And we add a method signature to it called attack. Now remember, an interface serves as a template for the classes that use it. So next, we start creating our different weapon options. You see here, I created a class called Rock, and it uses the weapon interface, which is why it says here implements weapon. When using an interface, you are forced to bring in all method signatures from the interface. So here in the weapon interface, we only have one method signature. Okay, so that's the one that we bring in here. But if there were, say, 100 method signatures, we would have to bring in all 100 method signatures into the rock class or any other class that implements the weapon interface. So now we provide code for this attack method signature. Now it makes sense for it to be unique to the rock class, so I just made it print throws a rock. We want to keep this example simple, so I'm just going to print something, but we want it to be unique to the class, so it's going to print throws a rock. Then we do something similar with the other weapon classes. You see here I created another class called bat. And we do the same thing. We implement from the weapon interface. We import the method signatures. Okay, there's just this one method signature that we import. And we provide code for it. So here it just simply prints swings a bat. Again, we want to keep this right here simple, but we want it to be unique to the class. So in the bat class, it's going to print swings a bat. All right, let's do the next one together. So for the bazooka weapon, we would have to create a new class, right? So we go here, we right click, go to new, then Java class, and here we would type in bazooka and make sure that the class here is highlighted and you press enter. Now I've already created a bazooka class, which is right here, okay, but it's missing a few things. So remember, the next thing is we implement the weapon interface, okay? The next step is to bring in all method signatures from the weapon interface. Now, I know we only have one method signature to bring in, so yes, I mean, we can technically go in here and type out attack, open, close parentheses, and just do everything manually, or we can simply hover over this red line and click on implement methods and then OK. So now we provide the method code. And just like the other weapons, we're just going to make it print something. And for this one, we can make it print something like fires bazooka. Okay. Now we're done creating all the different weapon options. So now we create the character class that will use the weapon options that we just made. So I create a class called character. Now the next step is super important. You have to create a global field of weapon, which is what I did right here. Now don't assign a value to it. The client will assign the value. And I'll show you how that's done in the constructor in just a second. So here I type private weapon, and then I also name the variable weapon, but you could really call the variable whatever you want. Now let's go over the constructor. This right here is a constructor. Now remember, constructors are used to assign values to your global fields. Here, a weapon value is passed through the parameter and it's assigned to the global field called weapon. Now notice how the input parameter variable and the global field variable are both named weapon. So in case you forgot that this keyword is used to let the computer distinguish between variables of the same name. For example, this input variable called weapon refers to this one, and this weapon variable refers to this one right here. And you can tell because if you double click on it, it'll highlight the one that it's referencing. Okay. So again, this one is referring to this one, and this one is referring to this one. Next up, we have two methods. This one here is called setWeapon. It does the same thing as the constructor, except that you can use it after the object has already been created. So as you can see here, you pass in a weapon, and it assigns that weapon to this global field here called weapon. All right. Now this method here is called perform attack. All it does is it calls the correct attack method from one of the weapon classes. Okay, so once the weapon here is set, whether through the set weapon method or through the constructor, when you call the perform attack method, it'll know which attack method to call. So for example, if we provide rock as a weapon, whether here in the constructor or in the set weapon method, okay, when this perform attack method is called, it'll know that it needs to call this version of the attack method. So it's going to print throws a rock. Okay. All right, so we are all done with our code. Now we just pretend to be the client or the user to see the real magic behind this design pattern. So I created this class called demo, and this is where we have our main method. We begin by creating a character object. Remember, the constructor can take in a weapon. So let's provide rock as the initial weapon. Okay, so now that the weapon has been set, now we can call the perform attack method on the character object. So when we run the application, you'll see that it prints throws a rock. So how does it know exactly which version of attack to run? Well, the way it knows is based off whatever weapon is currently set. So because we provided rock as the initial weapon, it sets the weapon to rock. And so when we call perform attack, it calls the attack from the rock class. Okay. So let's go ahead and just change the weapon to something else. So I'll type in character, and then we'll use the set weapon method, okay, to change the weapon, and we'll provide bat as the new weapon. Now, if we go ahead and run the application, it's not going to print anything new. What we need to do is we still need to call the perform attack method on it. So we type in character and then perform attack. And now if we run it, you'll see that it'll now print swings a bat, okay? Because the new weapon, because the weapon is now set to bat, okay? Now let's go ahead and just change it to bazooka. So we go ahead and call the set weapon again on it, all right? But this time we're going to provide bazooka as the new weapon. Now remember, if we just run it like this after setting the weapon, it's not going to print anything new. Okay, so we've changed the weapon to bazooka, but we still need to call the perform attack method on it in order for it to print something new here. So now that we call the perform attack method, we go ahead and run this again. And now you see here it says fires bazooka. Pretty cool, right? You see how easy it is to choose from different options? Also, don't forget that if you need to add more options, you can easily do so. Let's say I want to add a rocket launcher weapon. So what would be my next step? The next step would be to create a rocket launcher class, right? So I would right click here, go to new, go to Java class, and then I would type in the name of the class, rocket launcher, okay? And then you make sure that class is highlighted here, you press enter, and you get this, right? So what's my next step? Next step is to implement the weapon interface, right? And then my next step is to bring in all of the method signatures from the weapon interface. Now I can do that manually, or I could just hover over this and click on implement methods and then click OK. And there you go. It brings in the method attack signature. So now we provide our code for it, and it's going to be very similar to the other weapons, okay? Except that this one is going to print something like launches rocket, okay? So this makes it unique to this rocket launcher class. So if we go back to the demo class, let's go ahead and change the weapon to rocket launcher. So how do we do that? We type in character, then set weapon. We pass in the rocket launcher, and then we type in character, and then we call perform attack. So when we run the application, you'll see that it now prints launches rocket. Okay. All right, that is all for this video. Hopefully it all makes sense. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Thanks.